This is Dr. Andrew Jones. In this edition of Veterinary Secrets, I'm going to show you natural remedies for dog incontinence. Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to 2017. Yes, it's hard to believe that we're actually in another year, and it's going to take me a while just to get used to writing that 7 after the 201 something. And it's been like quite the year. I mean, I saw my YouTube channel grow from, relatively small. I think we had about 10,000 subscribers to almost 50,000. So first of all, thank you if you're one of those people who have subscribed. Just more than happy with what has happened. Super encouraged by all the positive comments. So first of all, thanks for being on my channel. Secondly, let's get right into the video. I do have a tendency to talk a bit much. So in today's video, we're talking about dog incontinence. And in part, this came from one of you subscribers who sent in a suggestion, which I'm always asking for. Give me suggestions for upcoming videos. And the suggestion was, can you please do a video on incontinence? I have an incontinent dog. Are there any natural remedies? Unfortunately, yes, there are. So what is it? What is dog incontinence? So in particular, what it means is that your dog involuntarily has lost his or her, and most of the time we're dealing with female dogs, her ability to involuntarily be continent in terms of keep her urine within her urinary bladder. So most commonly what you're going to see, and we'll do a little recreation here, is you've got a dog like Lewis here who's sound asleep. Typically it's that night. He or she wakes up in the morning and this is what you're going to see. So as I just said, typically your dog wakes up in the morning and you're going to see what looks to be this sort of yellowish looking pile of fluid. It's a little bit of urine. Where what's happened is that involuntarily there are certain things going on within their body that is preventing them from keeping that urine within that bladder when they're not consciously aware of it. So the first thing is determining that your dog really has urinary incontinence, not something such as a bladder infection, or submissive urination, or perhaps secondary to something such as kidney failure or diabetes, where they're drinking a lot more water, and because of that, some of that urine, or they're actually just urinating at night because they can't keep in all that urine. So the first big thing I always suggest, regardless of any dog that appears to be incontinent, where urine is leaking, is take them to your veterinarian, at least do a baseline urinalysis. That's going to give you a pretty good sense of, and based on the age of your dog, the gender of your dog, of what's going on. So generally, the incontinence that we're talking about today is estrogen responsive incontinence. So typically we're dealing with a spayed female dog for most of the time who has lost their source. She's lost her source of estrogen because we've done surgery, we've taken out the uterus, we've taken out the ovaries. And that estrogen in a certain number of dogs is needed to bind to certain receptors on this little urinary sphincter. That's this muscle that stays tight, keeps the urine within the urinary bladder. And when they don't have that source of estrogen, involuntary, when they're asleep at night, for instance, or they're very relaxed, their brain is supposed to be sending these signals, not to open that bladder up, not to pass urine. But they don't have that estrogen anymore because they've been spayed. Because of that, they're incontinent, and that's why typically where I showed that little picture earlier with Lewis lying there asleep, and all of a sudden you see him moving, and there's that little puddle of urine. It's because they've lost that estrogen source. So what are some of the natural remedies that you can be looking at for urinary incontinence? So the first big thing, and we're really basing it on, and I'm assuming that you've probably gone to the veterinarian, you've had your dog's urine examined. We even do see it in the male dogs as well. And they've said likely it's estrogen responsive incontinence. The only option I can give you here is these estrogen tablets. But there are other things to consider. So for instance, some of the plants or sources of plant estrogen. So it's something similar to estrogen. One that I really like, the first big one I want to show you is flaxseed. So this is a organic ground flax I have here. I'm going to show you what the seeds are like. And, you know, there it is right there. And what I would do, or what I suggest, is having just a little coffee grinder where you can just buy the whole seeds. They stay fresh that way. So grinding your own flax at home. And you're looking at approximate doses, about a tablespoon per 40 pounds of body weight of dog, fed twice daily. So something like Lewis, he'd be getting 2 tablespoons twice a day if he was incontinent. Flax it's a great source of its essential fatty acids. It's got some wonderful nutritional fibers as part of ground flax. We're seeing huge benefits, for instance, some of the cancers such as breast cancer, as well as being this natural source of a plant estrogen. So it's something we're going to be giving 2 tablespoons twice daily, say for a dog of Lewis's size, 1 tablespoon per 40 pounds, and give it for a full sort of 30 days and assess to see is it helping your dog or not. Soy is another plant that contains a high percent of phytoestrogens or plant estrogens. One specific soy supplement is called Genista, that people will use for incontinence. It may be beneficial for your dog for incontinence. You can see the image of what it actually looks like up there. So the Genista dose is approximately about 1/4 of a capsule per 10 pounds of body weight, given twice daily. And once again, you do give it for a full 30 days to assess if it's going to be beneficial or not. Solar makes a product called phytoestrogen, and it includes soy, for other different plant root products that contain plant estrogens. And it's another option in terms of these incontinent dogs. So the Solar phytoestrogen dose would be about 1 capsule per 30 pounds of body weight. And you'd be giving that once a day. And once again, I would suggest giving it for a full 30 days to see if it's going to be beneficial or not for your incontinent dog. Another possibility would be if it's nerves as an origin. So especially in our older dogs, it's not uncommon for them to have a degree of back-related injuries. In particular, our older dogs can get things like spondylosis, where parts of bone fuses between the spine. But one of the things some clients have found is if just some basic release techniques on some of these muscles in between the vertebrae, they've seemed to think that has actually helped their incontinent dog. So one easy thing to do, as I think you can see me here on Lewis, I'll just move him over to one side. Good boy, Lewis. I just want you to be able to see it as I'm doing it. So you can start, just sort of grab your dog's tail. Got Lewis's tail here, moving it up and down. There's this little depression right where the tail, at the base of the tail where it's joining his pelvis. And I'm going to just start there. I'm just putting my thumb or my forefinger right where the tail sort of indents in. So I'm just putting it in between the vertebrae. I'm just putting moderate pressure. I'm going to hold that for 30 to 60 seconds. And then I'm going to slowly work my way up. What I'm doing is I'm just palpating these little depressions between the vertebrae, holding that for 30 to 60 seconds. And what I'm hoping in terms of doing that is I'm giving some kind of muscular release. If he's got, some area of the spine, of the muscle that's in spasm, that's in secondary affecting the nerves, is what I'm hoping that will do, is help sort of release some of that. At the very least, I know I can just make his back be more comfortable. And I'm also hoping secondarily that's going to help improve his bladder function. So once again, something that be ideally we're going to do that twice a day, morning and night, at least sort of during the evening, right before your dog goes to sleep. And then once again, if you can do that for a month, that'd be great. And then assess to see if that's going to be beneficial or not. The last thing I want to discuss is the use of acupressure. So for many of you, it's hard to get your head around it. And we're actually dealing with Chinese medicine. It's a very different theory as opposed to Western conventional medicine. And it's based on the flow of energy that is flowing along these lines called meridians between over 360 points throughout your dog or your cat's body. And the thought is you can put pressure, you can actually affect these certain points, which is then going to affect the flow of energy. And the thought is that when there's something like disease, such as incontinence, is because the energy flow is out of balance. And I'm going to show you just 3 specific acupressure points. They're definitely worth trying. I've definitely had clients say, yes, that has been helpful. So once again, it's something you should at least consider trying for your dog. So the first point is called the KI3 point, or the kidney point. And in it here, I think you should just be able to see it. I've got Lewis's back leg. You know, here it is, his left back leg, and I'm looking at his hock right here. And it's one I've discussed in the past. And so what we're doing, you've got this flap of skin in here between this big tendon called the Achilles tendon and this big bone, the tibia. So when I've just got my thumb on that, my forefingers on the inside, and all you're doing is you're just going to hold that for, you know, somewhere between 30 to 60 seconds. You're putting moderate pressure, enough to indent the skin, but not to be painful for your dog. Holding that for 30 to 60 seconds. And one of the thoughts is that this has a direct link with terms of bladder function, especially if a person or a dog is incontinent. So 2 other points I want to show you. One is called the GV20 point, and with it, just here's Lewis's ears. Just draw a line so between the tips of, you know, lift your dog's ears straight up, and it's right in the top of their forehead. And there's a slight little dent right there. So that's the GV20 point. So that is another potential point where you can hold that for 30 to 60 seconds twice a day. And then the last one is, it's called the Yin Tang. It's one also used for people as well as for our dogs with anxiety. But it's an easy one to find. It's right in between their eyes, right here in that depression. So right in that point where my forefinger is. Once again, that can be hold for 30 to 60 seconds. Thank you for watching this edition of Veterinary Secrets on Dog Incontinence. If you've yet to do so, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. You can do that by clicking that little circle right above me. And then you can go ahead and click that link in the box below. I can send you my free books and videos on how to heal your dogs at home with my top natural remedies.